Alrighty, in this presentation we're going to go over the 5-minute code for Lab 13b, modifying strings. And if we take a look at our objectives, we're going to import a strings module and print out the defined string constants, assign specific string constants to variables, and then print them along with their specific data types, or what their data types are. And then we're going to look at the utility in terms of string constants and understanding what the string module does. If we look at the code requirements, we're going to follow the outline steps for each of the parts and write the appropriate Python code for each of the steps. And obviously we want to make sure that everything is working and running correctly. And we have the steps that are outlined here, and this is basically our sample output. So let's look at the steps that we're going to do. So for step 1, we're going to import the strings module. Import the strings module to access the predefined string constants. So when you looked at the learn and code, we had a whole bunch of different string constants. So here under the module section, what we're going to do then is we're going to import these strings. So that step is done. Next step, we're going to take a look at assigning string constants to the variables. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 constants that I'm utilizing from the strings. There's more of them, but I want to just focus on these components right now. So under the variable section, what we're end up doing then is assigning a variable. So I assign digits to string digits. So that's this component there. Next one is going to be the hex digits. So I assign my variable hex digits to this. And then we'll continue on down the line for the ASCII letters. We'll continue on for the ASCII lowercase. We'll look at the uppercase, and then we'll have the punctuation. So step number 2 then is now complete. Step number 3, so this is an interesting one. We're going to utilize the dir function to list all the defined attributes of the strings. So in this particular case, what we're going to end up doing is utilizing a loop to actually go through and look at all the different attributes that the string module has. In addition to that, they're all going to be prefixed by line numbers. So then we're going to scroll down to step number 3, and we're going to perform this. So this is going to be a function. So first thing we need to do is define our function. So I named it my print strings. And since we want line numbers associated here, my next line is going to be a variable that I'm going to utilize for my line numbers. And here I'm going to utilize a print statement to print this particular line. So this is printing out this. And now this is going to be utilizing a for loop. So I'm going to utilize a for loop. So for x in dir string. And if we take a look at it, so this is the dir function. So it's going to basically have a list that I'm utilizing x as my variable to capture the information line by line. And then we have a simple print statement that is going to print out the line number and then the value of x. And the last thing that we need to do then is to increment the I value by 1. So we have each item is going to be having its own line numbers. Now on the output over here, these colors for some reason changed. Ignore the color changes on this. We're all going to utilize the same colors, and nothing's going to be fancy on that part. Let me get rid of some additional lines here. And the next thing what we're going to do then is step number 4. And step number 4 is we're going to print the string constants with the data types, identifying the data type that it is. And if we look at the output, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of output for the different variables. So we're going to be printing out these particular variables. And once again, let's go back here to our step number 4, and this is basically going to have its own function as well. So first thing I'm going to do is define a function. So I use my string output, and the first line I'm going to have is a print statement that this is printing out a constants with the data types. And then I'm going to have these particular lines, these pairs of lines. And the way I'm structuring the output on this is I'm actually utilizing one print statement with the control character of a new line. So I'm printing out what it's supposed to display, and then the value. I have a new line for that data type and displaying the data type for that particular variable. And I'm going to do that for my next line of code. So this is identifying the hex digits. Next one is identifying the ASCII letters. Next one after that, everything in lowercase. Let me get this to align up correctly here. And then our next line is going to be our uppercase, and last one is going to be our punctuation. So that is basically step number 4. And step number 5 is we're going to update the main function to include any call statements and newly created functions and create the header messages as needed. So the header messages are going to be these components here, and then we're going to output the information with that. So I already have one header message already established here. Next line that I need to do with this one is to call my print strings. So if I come up here, it's going to print out the information that is in this function. I want to include a header message for my next part, and then from there I'm going to utilize another call statement for my string output, and it's going to print all this out. Now let's go ahead and run the code and see what the output is. And there we go. Let me scoot that over there. So I printed out the part 3 of all the output. So you can see there's a couple more parameters here for the string, and then these are all the outputs for the variables that we've assigned. So the string function is actually kind of cool and powerful, because we don't have to basically end up creating a table or a list of items when they're already predefined by these particular syntax. As you can see, we didn't have to write ABC all the way through Z, uppercase and lowercase. We're able to utilize this simple string module. All right, and that is it for this particular program.